Today's decision almost certainly means that there are virtually no limits on what a president can do. This is a fundamentally new principle, and it's a dangerous precedent, because the power of the office will no longer be constrained by the law.
All right, that was President Biden last night, scolding the Supreme Court for its immunity ruling. He called the decision an attack on established American principles. The media's meltdown started within minutes of the decision.
It doesn't matter if Biden is old. It don't matter. It don't matter if he's old. What matters is that the other guy wants to be a king.
Did the court just say, yeah, you can assassinate a political rival?
This case underscores the core theme of President Biden's re-election, the stakes of this, their message that Trump is a threat to democracy.
It's almost like a license to thug in a way.
I'm generally a glass half empty kind of person. This is a death squad ruling.
Andrew Cherkasky is a former federal prosecutor. He joins us now. And Andrew, you joined me throughout the morning yesterday morning, immediately following this ruling. It's almost like this has given them an excuse to get off of the debate. And they're now talking about this. Your reaction to what you just heard?
Well, I think that it's purely disingenuous to say that this creates some sort of license to kill, or that this is some sort of different place that the American presidency has been in the history of America. In fact, through the history of America, there's been no attempts or efforts to prosecute presidents. There's been really no insinuation to prosecute presidents. Nearly 50 years ago, the case of Fitzgerald versus Nixon put up boundaries to even civil litigation against presidents. And typically, you would be considered to have greater rights from a criminal perspective than a civil perspective. This is crying over spilled milk at the highest order. This is no license to kill. The idea that a president has immunity does not immunize them from private or unofficial acts. That would include, I suppose, the idea of assassinating a political rival. So I see this as histrionics in light of a ruling that they very much did not like, because they want to see Donald Trump prosecuted for their own lawfare benefits.
Speaking of history, let's look at what President Biden is saying now versus what he said then on the court's immunity decision undermining the rule of law. Listen.
Well, I will respect the limits of the presidential powers I have for 3.5 years. Supreme Court blocked me from relieving student debt, but they didn't stop me.
Oh, wait, well, yeah, what about that student debt?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to look at with President Biden, and really, frankly, any president, is that part of the function of the executive is to push the boundaries as to what you are or are not allowed to do, especially if you disagree with Congress in terms of exactly where certain lines are to be drawn. So presidents throughout the history, but specifically President Biden, have directly contradicted rulings from the Supreme Court. The student loan issue is one that is, I think, particularly ripe, where it was clear that the executive was not authorized to spend billions and billions of dollars based on the legislation that he was trying to act upon. Supreme Court said, no, you can't do that after he tried. And then he tries to do it again. Is that the sort of criminal act where you're directly interfering and rejecting the ideas of what Congress says and what the Supreme Court says, and you still move forward? Should that be prosecuted? I don't think Joe Biden is ready for that. So this is part of the politics of the tricameral system that we have in America, and it makes America great because we are able to have each system check each other.
By the way, and where was the respect of the rule of law when Robert Hur, special counsel at the U.S. Department of Justice, described President Biden in a way that he said he could not bring charges against him? National Review's bringing it up. When does Robert Hur get his apology? Hur's report described Biden as a well-meaning elderly man with poor memory. Liberal pundits couldn't possibly believe it. Then, final question here, and we can pop the New York Times headline up on the screen. The former president is reportedly now, Andrew, moving to overturn his conviction in the New York criminal case after the Supreme Court immunity ruling. Where do you see this going?
Well, we talked about that yesterday, Sandra, right after the ruling had come out, that I expected that they would do that. This is the sort of thing where the defense is trying to strike while the iron is still hot. The idea of what happened in New York is that the president, although many of the acts occurred before he was the president, much of the evidence, as well as the charges themselves, all relate to times after he was in office. The Supreme Court ruling yesterday talks about the idea that, number one, you have to evaluate all of the felony prosecutions of a president while they're in office under the new standards essentially that they set to ensure that it's not official conduct. But even more than that, it appears that you cannot use evidence from when he was in office. And they use that in the New York trial. So I think that there's a good argument here. Judge Merchan is not likely to take kindly to it, though.
Great to have you on, Andrew. Thank you very much. Good to see you.
Thank you, Sandra.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.